Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Chasing Psychological Safety. Today, we have an announcement to make. We have created a series called The Fundamentals of Psychological Safety, which you can find on peoplenotech.com/articles. Please go over there and subscribe to the series. What it attempts to do is something we want to talk to you about today. But you might know, if you've been reading from us, that we produce quite a lot of content, arguably too much content. Some people are very annoyed that we write more than they can consume, which we'll put our hands up. There are two distinct different newsletters that we've had so far, and now augmented with this third one that we're talking about. The first one, called Chasing Psychological Safety, appears on Mondays and Tuesdays on LinkedIn. This video is part of the second article on Tuesdays, and it attempts to attack a problem that has to do with psychological safety that we see generally an up-to-date sort of conversation that you hear around yourself anyway, some form of trend, some form of thing that's happening to teams that we meet and so on. So it attacks that problem in a theoretical fashion on the Mondays, and then it goes in some practical fashion on the Tuesdays, where we try to give actionable advice to you in the video and the associated article. That together is the Chasing Psychological Safety newsletter, which addresses, for the most part, the HR and people and business and leadership community. There's another newsletter on Wednesdays called The Future is Agile. That goes into the intricacies, if you wish, of what does it mean to do an agile transformation while trying to take care of the people side of things. And both of them are trying to address the concept that we talk about often, called the human debt. All of these things that we haven't done, starting with psychological safety. Now, again, different audiences, but for both of these newsletters, we believe that the discourse is not necessarily elevated. We're not claiming it's the smartest levels of discourse you're going to find out there, but what it is it is presuming we are all at the same level of understanding as to what the fundamentals are. What are the definitions? What does agile mean? What does it mean for people? What does psychological safety, what does it mean for people? And then we realized that because we've been doing this for quite a while now, it's a good couple of years of content, of loads of content, we have now gotten to a point where we have this conversation with you guys, the team. We all kind of get what we're saying, we know the fundamentals and so on, but there are myriads of new people coming to the topic by the day, right? So psychological safety has now become, has taken critical mass, if you wish. It's become commonplace of a conversation. Thankfully, more and more teams and industries are discussing the topic of psychological safety, which is great. The downside of that is there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of new frameworks, there's a lot of people that are having cottage industries being built around it, and which means that if you're new coming to the topic, you struggle to find, outside of Amy's amazing books, and maybe, if I might say, my book and books like it, they struggle to find where do they go for a source of definitive info on what are the fundamentals. So this is what we're creating with this third newsletter, if you wish, the third series called The Fundamentals of Psychological Safety, which is going to publish on Thursdays on our website, so we don't clog the other two newsletters on LinkedIn. Go subscribe to it. But if you are already a subscriber to the other ones, do not expect very highbrow dialogue or in jokes or anecdotes. Expect that this will be a very fundamentals 101 psychological safety series.
Absolutely. That word, it's all in the word fundamentals. We've spoken endlessly, written endlessly about psychological safety, and now we just want to make really sure that we have a place for the core elements of psychological safety. Things like understanding the definitions, being really, really crystal clear on what psychological safety is, not just the feeling or the kind of intangible, nebulous idea, but really, really what this is. And then also what has created all of the energy and new and important place for psychological safety in our world of work. So all of the research that goes behind it, all of the work by Amy Edmondson and Google, and all of the other research that we've now found and has come out in the last couple of years, that we feed into all of the work that we do. And there's been, some really interesting, critically important data that is now out there on psychological safety. So we'll be looking as part of this to really make sure we reinforce that for this team and all of the new members of the team that will come over time. So we'll be looking at things like definitions, we'll be looking at things like the research, but then also the components, like what actually goes into psychological safety. You're crystal clear on what it is, you know what the research is, what goes into psychological safety. And as you know, as a quick reminder from us, it's the positive part of psychological safety, the components that we use in our software, and then it's the impression management side of psychological safety as well. What are we not speaking up for fear of appearing? So we want to make sure that when you read this newsletter, when you come to this community, you get really, really clear on where it's come from, what it is, how to use it, and that it's just a really useful place to come to, and inspirational as well.
And useful is a good word. And we'll be transparent and honest and say, if we wanted to create yet another cottage industry, the type of articles that you're going to find over the next few weeks in that particular series, we could have easily put those together and sold them as a certification like many others do. There's no point in doing that. We are giving that freely to the community. Practically a lot of concentrated research. It's the equivalent of a course on psychological safety. We believe that it's necessary because the more of the advocates and superheroes that we work with that have this information in one place, ready to be slightly more accessible when they need to disseminate it through organizations, the closer we are to actually getting to changing people's lives. And we shy away from this entire purpose conversation. We shy away from how much impact what we do makes, but we have to be honest and be, number one, grateful, which we are every day that we get to do this. We completely appreciate that there are multiple people out there who understand the same points, but they don't have the liberty and the context to be doing much about it. So we are very grateful that we are in this position. We are also very conscious that we cannot tiptoe and use gloves and not be honest about what we see, simply because there aren't enough people out there doing this kind of a fight. And we are very far collectively as humans from having teams that are psychologically safe and happy. We're very far, let's face it. So the amount of human that most places have is still massive. The dent we've made where we do get more psychological safety in teams with our tool or with our work or with the awareness that we create is nowhere near sufficient. There's masses of work to be done. We do not have the time for people to kind of catch a word here and there or go down the wrong rabbit hole. Those are the fundamentals. Go refamiliarize yourself with them and then just kind of use them to get other people to join your superhero army. And then hopefully we can have happier teams faster at scale. Yeah, thanks for listening to us. Obviously, as usual, come talk to us if you want to see a demo of the software. Come talk to us if you have ideas, if you disagree, if you agree. Either way, come talk to us. Subscribe to this and subscribe to the newsletter. And we will see you over the week. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.